Welcome to qnawire.
Here we want to explain how we can employ Hess law in order to calculate enthalpy changes for reactions that cannot be measured directly. And one of the examples that we're going to have is going to be the delta H for hydration for a certain reaction. So the hydration reaction is going to be defined as follows, employing this part over here, in the case for copper sulfate, SO4, to get the hydrated version, we would require a certain value for energy, right? So what we want to know is what is the delta H for hydration. We can apply Hess law using these couple of reactions because what Hess law tells us is that the sum of the reactions correspond to the sum of the enthalpies for the reactions. That means if I want to get this equation over here, I can arrange the first ones that I have to get our final results. For example, the first reaction tells us that I'm going to start with copper sulfate as a solid, and to put this into a aqueous medium, we're going to produce aqueous copper sulfate. The second reaction tells us that the energy required to get the pentahydrated version of copper sulfate is going to require a second solvation energy. So what we can do is employ Hess law in order to get the final result. So let's label this delta H1 and this one is going to be delta H2. Notice that if you add up both of the equations directly, you're not going to be able to get your correct answer. This is because not everything is going to cancel out to get the correct result. So for example, if I do reaction 1 minus reaction 2, what I'm going to get is for reaction 1, and minus reaction 2, we just need to switch up the places over here when we put the minus sign. So minus reaction 2 is equivalent of doing this part of the reaction. The reactions over here are going to correspond to delta H1 and to minus delta H2. Thus, applying Hess law, we can add this now together, and what you're going to see is that the aqueous medium is going to cancel out on both sides, and the copper sulfate is going to cancel out as well. So over here, just a comment, when you have this reaction over here, the one on the top, we can also add +5 of water, but in general it is omitted because that is going to go into the solvent directly, right? So for example, that would come over here. Okay, so the overall reaction would be the one that we have here, producing copper sulfate pentahydrated. And the delta H for this reaction is going to be delta H1 minus delta H2, which is, as we can see here on the image, equal to minus 78.2 kilojoules per mole. So remember, always when you're applying Hess law, if you multiply one of the reactions with a minus sign, what is going to happen is that the reaction is going to switch reagents and products, and Hess law is simply adding up the reagents with the reagents and the products with the products. And everything that is going to appear on both sides of the reaction is going to cancel out. So with that, it would be all. Thank you very much and have a good one.